Koala Gardens. Now I've got a real treat for you today. This video that I've prepared has been filmed over the last week or so because I've got 3 different guests for you, and what I have found most fascinating about what's come together with this video is that I chose 3 individuals in Australia who are all working to help koalas, but they're working in very different ways. And I didn't know what they were going to talk about. I left the topics up to them, but kind of explaining, some of the things they do. And there's been some amazing flowing together of the topics that they talked about that I'm sure you're going to see as the video unfolds. So I hope that you've prepared yourself to spend some time really dedicating yourself to all things koala for May 3 Wild Koala Day 2021. So what is Wild Koala Day? Well, it's a day that's really been designed to be able to celebrate wild koalas and be able to spread the word about protecting their habitat. The day May 3 has a really special meaning for me because if you have followed Koala Gardens for any time and have looked at the history of how this property came into being, then you would know that my beloved husband Chris I lost to motor neurone disease in 2014. And May 3, which has become Wild Koala Day, and that actually started 2 years later, is the date that I held his memorial service. So I think for me it's extremely fitting that Wild Koala Day was made on this particular date. If you check in the description below, you'll find heaps of links. I've put so many links in there with this video that will take you directly to what's being done by each of my 3 guests today. So if you want to follow up and find out more, there's lots for you to look at in the description below. So I'm very excited to introduce now my very first guest, Olivia Woosman from OWAD Environment. And OWAD Environment are koala ecology experts using koala scat detection dogs. Fascinating stuff.
My name is Olivia Woosnam, and I am the director of OWAD Environment. We are koala conservation experts, and we help managing authorities with delivering better conservation outcomes and conservation planning for koalas. So koalas don't follow, and koala populations don't follow the man-made boundaries that we have, such as, local government area boundaries, state boundaries, etc. So the main thing we do in our work is we try and understand which distinct koala populations occur where in the landscape, how they interact with each other right now, and whether there are any deficits anywhere. So, for example, we can tell that this population here is very close to that other distinct population there, but right now there's no corridor in between the two, which is leaving both populations extremely vulnerable to a whole host of threatening processes, especially, in the modified environments of, around big cities or even farmlands. We're talking about significant habitat fragmentation, which is making it really challenging for koalas to safely move around, disperse, and migrate. Now, what we've got to understand is that koala populations, prior to European settlement, we probably did have a number of different populations across the east coast of Australia, but this difference would have happened very smoothly and progressively. So if you went, from places in Victoria and through to north of Queensland, you would see genetic differences along the way, but they would happen very slowly and progressively again. Whereas right now, after a couple hundred years of really severely modifying and fragmenting their habitats, what we're seeing today is some very sudden changes in the genetic makeup of populations. And we look at the genetic makeup only because that actually informs us on the actual true movements of, on the ground. It's all about how koalas are able or not to safely disperse and migrate. They are a species who do need a lot of room and who do need a lot of space to move around. Koalas don't tend to just sit in one tree and be there their whole lives. No, that's a myth. They can have favorite trees, yes, but that can absolutely change over time. And their needs can change over time too. They can be, a male that's moved into my patch right now, and I'm not particularly keen to, stand up against this big male. I'd rather just move my home slightly further away. And so it's not, nothing is set in stone in terms of the habitat and the range of each individual. It does tend to shift and change over time, and we do need to account for this and provide them safe opportunities to do this.
I, I'm really interested in what you've said there, because I'm observing that in the data collection I do on my property, except that once they leave the property, I can't say for sure what happened. But everything that you're saying is ringing completely true, where I
Mm.
have animals who are adults and they obviously have made their home range here, and then they don't necessarily die. They really appear to have moved on. And when the dispersion happens, remember you asked me only last week how many koalas have I seen in the time I've been collecting, and it's that funny number of 111, 111. And
That's amazing.
and only a small percentage of them have ever stayed long term, and some of them have stayed just for a year or two, because
Yeah.
there are
Yeah.
many dynamics all the time that that are influencing how long a koala can stay in one spot, and if they
and
can't
and that's
stay, they,
actually that's actually a very good sign. So that you only see them for relatively short periods, it would suggest that there is still some connectivity. And look, and whenever we go in areas where people obviously have lived there a long time and know almost every single individual, by name, and they've always been there and they're always there, a lot of the time the people get really excited, like it's a great thing that these koalas are still here. I see it from a different perspective. This always has me worried. And the first thing I think of is there's a problem in connectivity here. You shouldn't be able to see the same individuals that for their whole lives in the same spot the whole time. I'm thinking they are not finding a way to disperse. And as soon as we start to have a look at what's actually happening genetically, usually we will see that. You will see that, oh, this is a really isolated population that's become incredibly genetically distinct from their cousins, sometimes just 5 kilometers down the road. They've got much lower genetic diversity. The challenge and the very goal of conservation, true conservation, is to enable wild animals to remain safely in the wild for their whole life. Ideally, a happy wild animal is an animal that never has to go into care.
well, how are you left after listening to Olivia talk then? Now, I have to say to you that Olivia and I ended up talking on Zoom for quite a long time, and she had some really amazing things to say about deep deep diving into koala ecology, and there are going to be more videos coming up during May and June that are going to be based around what Olivia said, including more parts of the interview. And I want to use then video from the property here to help to demonstrate and explain further some of what Olivia's saying. But what she's saying there about the genetic diversity and the need of koalas to be able to move really struck my heart, because I know that the koalas don't stay on my property, and I know that they move off the property at times, either for short periods of time or for good, for lots of reasons. And that's going to become some videos that I hope over the course of this year that you're going to find fascinating, because there isn't really anybody that's talking much about this stuff to the general public, and I think that it's going to give us some great material for some deep dive koala ecology videos to come up. So that's something that you can all look forward to, that has sprouted, if you like, from seed sown on Wild Koala Day. Our next guest is Bernard Jean from Queensland Koala Crusaders, and he's going to take us through and tell us about some of the great work that they're doing up there in Noosa with working with children in the school. Bernard lives up at Noosa, which is about 5 to 6 hours drive north from where I'm sitting. So his koalas are northern cousins of the ones that are on my property. And Bernard's going to tell us some really interesting things that his group up there are doing to educate children in schools. So welcome, Bernard.
Welcome. Thank you, Katrina, for having me. I'll talk to you about what we're doing in schools. Okay, we've started a few years ago. So we go to schools, okay, to educate kids and to give them awareness of the koalas, okay, give them facts about them, tell them a bit of a story, and also tell them about the play of the koala, about their challenges, okay, and how we can help them, okay, to deal with those challenges, okay. So we started a few years ago, as I said, okay, and we are usually 2 or 3 people going to schools, okay. We ask, we send emails, okay, to the schools around, okay, asking them if they would like to have a koala talk. It's for free, of course, okay. And there are some requirements, okay. We need to have a blue card to do that, okay. Because we are going to schools, okay, we're taking some photos and we have to ask permissions, okay, to publish the photos. Some schools don't allow that, okay, but it's okay. But they take themselves photos as well, okay. So the session lasts for about an hour, okay. So because there's a problem with, as you might know, with children attention, okay. So if you are more than 1 hour, okay, so they lose attention, okay. But so we have a presentation that is on a memory stick, and we are usually in a big hall in the school. And this video goes for about half an hour, okay. We at first, okay, Eileen, my partner in that, okay, is the presenter. Okay, so she presents the talk, okay. She has a few. Oh, I've got a butcher bird next to me.
Beautiful.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
And we have a butcher bird in the Mist series books, and that's what one actually sounds like. So that's great.
Okay, so when the presentation starts by this video, okay, and in this video, the first thing is images of our book, okay, the book I've written with Megan Halverson and Rex Halverson, okay, about Cuddles, a koala in Tea Tree Bay in Noosa National Park. So what we do, I'll read the book, okay, I've got the book in front of me, I read it to the kids, okay. Wow, it's very noisy. I read the book, okay, and meanwhile, okay, on the screen you've got the pages of the book going through, okay. So that's the first part of the presentation. Then we have facts, okay, facts about koalas, okay. Then we have the challenges that are made by the koalas in the wild, okay, and we give some advices, okay, and then we ask the kid to ask questions, and it's amazing how many kids, almost all the hands are raised, okay, all kids want to ask a question, okay, and that's quite the very large part of the presentation, okay, and we love it. Uh, and at the end of our presentation, what we have usually, we have a mascot. We have a costume, okay, a koala costume, okay, and the mascot enters in the room, okay, and start hugging the children, okay, and all that. So it's very, quite a potential, okay, um, happening, okay. So we've done that for years, but okay, we've been stopped by COVID. Okay, so we had actually I think six koala talks planned, okay, before COVID, and we had to cancel all of them. So we are restarting the first one on the 30th, okay, of March, because we had another two that we had planned, okay, but unfortunately that's when the Queensland government decided, okay, for us to wear masks and all that, and we couldn't do that, okay, wearing masks, okay, obviously, okay, so but it's resuming, and we're happy with that, because this awareness, this koala awareness that is shared with the kid is very important to us, not only for the kids, but the kids also give that up to their parents, okay, so that the for example, okay, if we tell them, okay, what we ask questions, okay, if we tell them, what would you do if you are in the car with your parents and there's a sign showing that there are koalas, and most of them say, oh, I'll ask my parents to slow down, okay, and that's what we want, okay, and we want them to, when they go back to they go back home, okay, to tell their parents, okay, what they should do, okay, and it's an education from down up, okay, and I think that's the right way to do.
And
Okay,
that's how our Miss books work, isn't it? That's lovely to hear that, because that's our idea in there is the children think about the problems, they think about the solutions, and then they're going to be able to talk to
that's
adults
right.
about those solutions and actually feel like they can take action, like feel like they can say, oh, look,
That's right.
the sign, slow down, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm a big supporter of the youth movement, okay, against climate change and all that, and I think it's part of it as well, okay. So
Yes.
they can, it's their future, okay. So I'm an old guy, okay, but I love, okay, working with children, okay, because I know that they're gonna take that upon themselves, okay, and do something about it, okay, and that's what we want, okay.
That's fantastic.
Yeah,
Well, that was really enjoyable to hear about that. So
yeah.
thanks so much for your time this morning, Bernard. Is there anything else that you want to say as a final word to people?
Yeah, what we also do, okay, we give away, okay, one of the Kellogg's books, and we want to give away, okay, to the school one of the Miss books as well, okay, because I think they're marvelous as well, okay, and we might ask as well Clancy, okay, Koala
Right.
Clancy, okay, they might want to be part of it as well, okay, so that would be great, okay, because it's not only showing that it's our koalas in Noosa National Park, but there are also koalas in New South Wales and in Victoria, okay, and that's a big thing, okay, and
Yes.
they need to know that they're not isolated, okay, in Queensland, okay, and there are other parts as well, okay, that are dealing with koalas and that are helping them.
I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. It was great to talk to Bernard about the work that they're doing with children, because children are the hope of the future, and if we can help instill a love for nature into children, then they're going to be the ones who have to work out so much of what's going wrong in the world. And so it's great to see how they're engaging children through the use of talking to them, using video, using books, and then bringing somebody in a koala suit to give that bit of a tactile experience as well. And I'm so thrilled to have the Mist books going out to those children up in Queensland. Now I've got Wendy Bithell from Vision Walks Eco Tours, which are an award-winning Byron-based sustainable tour company where your guides are environmental scientists, and Wendy is conducting virtual tours in this COVID world we're living in. So welcome to Wild Koala Day. This part, I have Wendy Bithell with me from Vision Walk Eco Tours, and Wendy's going to show us a little bit about what it's like taking a virtual tour with her. And this is exciting because this is the first time I've seen one of these virtual tours. So great to see you, Wendy.
Yeah, thanks, Katrina, and thanks for this opportunity sharing Wild Koala Day with you again today. Since COVID, I've been experimenting with virtual tours, and in particular, this virtual koala tour I've been doing has been doing pretty well. I'm getting people from all around the world wanting to experience live virtual tours with koalas. And so I come out here with my trusty selfie stick and smartphone and get everyone logged on with Zoom, and we go around and we look for koalas in the wild. So it's pretty cool. So they can ask questions as we go, and we're looking at koalas in real time, and they all get pretty excited about it.
That's great.
So yeah. And it's where I'm east of Lismore at the moment. I have to. The trick with these tours is you have to be somewhere where you've got phone signal, and fairly good phone signal. So you can't just go out into the middle of the bush and hope. It just won't work because you need to be somewhere where you're close to where there's good phone signal. So, but luckily, as we all know, Lismore's a bit of a koala hotspot. So there's lots of lovely areas around Lismore that actually are good for finding wild koalas. So that's kind of what I do. And I come out here beforehand and I spot the wild koalas. And on this particular time, I found us 3. And then what I do is I walk around and show the people the koalas and talk about their biology and their habitat and their threats, and try to get them engaged with helping to save koalas. So I send them links to all sorts of stuff to Friends of the Koala and Bangalore Koalas and you guys to help sponsor and protect and donate money to koalas as well. So it's a great little way of me connecting with people from overseas when I can't really connect with them directly at the moment. So these virtual tours are the next best thing. So I found us a little koala up here. She's fast asleep, as you know. Let me just flick this around because you don't want to see my mug. Now, let me just drop this on the ground for a sec. So as you know, you look for blobs up trees, and sometimes the light's not the best. I usually do this first thing in the morning, when the light's actually behind me, not in front of me. So there is one just here. Hang on, I've just lost it. Hang on, where are you? Oh, there it is.
Oh, there's that blob.
There's the blob.
In a classic koala position.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? It's really cute. and then sometimes they're kind of looking at us. Sometimes, you know, they're asleep like this one. And then, yeah, I just basically walk around and we look for these koalas and we talk all about what's going on with them. And sometimes, you know, they're just, I've done like kids' birthday parties. And and just last week I did a group of Harvard University students. So you're getting everyone from all walks of life wanting to connect with koalas, which is fantastic.
That's great. And so today in particular, you said you found 3 koalas, and were they all on this stretch of road where you are at the moment?
They are, but they're a bit far apart. So,
Yep.
So normally I would talk about koalas when I walk between each one. I would talk about, you know, their biology and their, you know, conservation status and threats and habitat and stuff like that. But I kind of, we're just doing a little short version today. So I won't walk between the koalas today because they're actually quite far apart as well. So I'm not going to, and they're all a bit asleep like this one. So yeah, this is as good as we're going to sort of see on this particular tour. But that's, you know, that's also, you know, when you see stuff in the wild, sometimes you see them really well and sometimes you don't, and that's just life. But yeah, normally the tour takes an hour, and I am walking in between each koala, and then we're talking about all the information about them and sharing all the beautiful information about them.
Something I'd love to ask, Wendy, if I may, is if you were to zoom back out again, if you could just tell us a little bit about just this area where this tree is, because I noticed that there's one tree and then I can see another tree back behind and to the right a little bit, but then I can just see a lot of grass. So can you tell us just a little bit about where are these koalas?
Yeah, well, it's a bit of farmland just outside of Lismore, and these koalas are living in like these trees all down this strip, but they also live up on these ones on the hills. So as you can see, I'll zoom in a little bit. So they're also living in these trees up here, all around these hills. And so these koalas will have, there's my car, by the way. Ooh.
Beautiful.
Hello. So then they'll be living in all these trees here. But what happens here at this road here, I usually walk up and we'll show you this fence up here. That's actually a koala fence there. So there are koalas on the other side of that, but they get run over by cars. So they put this special fence up so they don't get run over. And if you see here, there's a little tunnel just there. And that little tunnel is for them to cross over the road safely. So they can cross between the two habitats. But what we find is usually these ones usually stay on this side and the other ones stay on the other side. Because the females have a home range of about a kilometre, which is about what we're seeing here. And the males might have a range of about, 10 kilometres or something like that. So it depends on the habitat and where they are, is to how far they're moving. But as you can see, and as you know, they're all solitary. I'm just trying to get on the other side of this sun so it's not. Yeah, I can see this one a bit better from this side now, but it's facing the other way, but the light's a little bit better on that one. But
I hope that that actually gives people a little bit of appreciation of how hard I have to work to get the photo video that I get, because what you're showing us now is what I see probably 80% of the time that I'm out koala spotting on the property, and I have to work pretty hard to, and a lot of it's luck. You just come along and, oh, look, that one's awake and doing something.
Yeah, and that's what happens here sometimes. Sometimes they'll wake up and they'll have a bit of a scratch. And then the participants will say, oh, that one's having a scratch, oh, it's having a yawn, or whatever. And that's really cool because you're kind of doing all that in real time, which is actually pretty cool. It is a lot of fun for everyone when we're seeing it. I mean, but most of the time we're just seeing sleepy koalas, and I'm talking about sleepy koalas.
Yeah.
But it's still all live, and that's what's exciting about it.
So in the description below, I've got links to all of the stuff that Wendy does. So if you're watching this and you want to know more about Wendy's virtual tours, please just pop down to the description below and there'll be plenty of information for you there. So Wendy, to wrap up, have you got any one thing you would like to say to people about the koalas and the situation?
Yeah, well, koalas are in real, as we all know, they're in super duper trouble. And we are doing lots of work with tree planting at the moment, but unless we stop chopping down their trees, they're going to become extinct. So we really do need to stop chopping down their food trees, and continue to do the planting, because that's the single most thing we've got to do.
You'll never hear an argument from me on that one. Planting trees on its own is not enough, because the older growth trees are absolutely critical. So I like what you said, we need both. Stop cutting them down and keep planting to have any hope. Yeah.
I couldn't agree more. It's exactly what we need to do. And that's what the people ask when they're doing these virtual tours, what they can do. And that's why I introduce them, to you guys and Friends of the Koala and Bangalow Koalas and stuff, to, see what they can do to help koalas. And the other thing is of course, climate change, and we can all do stuff about climate change. We all got to do our bit.
Most definitely. Well, thank you for being part of Wild Koala Day with me yet again. Also, last year, Wendy and I did a Wild Koala Day special together, and I envisage over the next 12 months, we're going to see lots more of Wendy online, because she's just doing more and more. So thanks for being involved, Wendy.
Thanks, Katrina. Happy Wild Koala Day.
I hope you enjoyed that presentation from Wendy. One of the things that really struck me the most was how well it tied in with what Olivia was saying in the first presentation, and how Wendy actually showed us how a koala population could be cut off through a road. Now, that road is a really significant road, and as Wendy said, it has koala fencing all along it, and you can think of that fencing as being quite similar to the fence that I have around the Kindy enclosure. One of the great things that we can do is we can prevent koalas getting onto a road, but then we trap them in areas and we prevent them from being able to disperse. And we can't do that, because then we cause all kinds of other issues. So they have an under the road tunnel, and we do know that koalas move that tunnel, and they are able to move from the north of Lismore right down through my property and even further south. I think that would actually be another fantastic video that I could make during this year. Might be one that explains the koala corridor that I live in. What do you think? There's been a few ideas that I've gotten, both by being in talks with people during the making of this video and as I've been working back through and editing the video. So if you come up with any ideas that you think would be great topics for me to make videos of, then please do leave a comment below. And do you know what? You've made it right through to the end of another video, and this has been a long one, but this was a special one for Wild Koala Day. So, I'm going to ask you something. Can you write in the comments below, koalas must stay wild? Thanks so much for watching. There's more great video coming up all through this year and on for as long as I've got breath to do it. Thanks for visiting Koala Gardens. Did you hit the like button? Now before you go, there's lots more great video to see, and make sure you've subscribed and hit that notification bell.